Hi, I'm Rebecca Melone, and welcome back to I Now Pronounce You Divorced. This is Melone Hatley PC's podcast where we talk about all things divorce, before, during, after, the good, bad, and the ugly. And today we have with us Kelsey from the Samaritan House. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
So can you just give us the quick rundown, your elevator speech? What is the Samaritan House and what do you guys do?
So, Samaritan House helps people, free people from domestic violence, trafficking, and homelessness. It was started over 40 years ago to help people experiencing homelessness, realized that individuals that were becoming homeless were fleeing domestic violence relationships more often than not. We operate a 24-hour crisis hotline. So we operate with victims, calling us needing services. We operate 13 emergency shelters throughout Virginia Beach. And we also have victim advocates, case management, permanent housing assistance, and a large donation department to support victims.
Wow. Okay. So, in getting started and establishing, you said 13 different places. What was kind of the origin story? What was y'all's background, and when did that first sort of building come into play?
So I believe it was back in 1985.
Mhm.
There was a group of women here locally that they were just trying to help people that were experiencing homelessness. They did that for a while and then just started to really see that a lot of the women that they were helping were fleeing violent relationships. And so they helped them with that. I'm not exactly sure when the first house came about, but it has obviously grown over the years. We do own and operate the 13 emergency shelters. So they are not at risk of anything. They are townhomes and houses that are tucked away into neighborhoods for the safety and confidentiality of our clients. And we do, obviously, with safety in mind, we're able to house multiple families in one at one time so that we can maximize our help with the people needing our resources.
What does the first step look like once someone reaches out to you? Can you maybe walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, so they can call our 24-hour crisis hotline, or they can come do a walk into our office during the week, during business hours. And primarily, our first thing is we do a danger assessment to see kind of their safety, where they're at. What do they actually need from us? Do they need emergency shelter? Do they need just some other resources like assistance in court, counseling, those types of things? We will transport them to us if they need assistance in transportation, if they're coming into emergency shelter. We do not go to them. We provide a cab service that will go and pick them up. Once they come in, we're able to do a full assessment of what their situation is, what their needs are, and set them up with a case manager who is able to provide them with any resources they need. So if they need therapy, if there's children involved, we have a children's case manager who's able to step in and assist to make sure that they get the resources that they need. If they need job training, they don't have a job, we'll assist them with job training, resume building. We partner with Centera's mobile clinic so that they can receive medical care that they need. We have a dental clinic that comes on site. So we're really trying to help them get out of that situation and start building a foundation that's healthy and safe for them.
That's amazing. When you talk about job training, what sort of skills are you teaching, and how does that then translate into getting somebody who maybe has no work experience or very little work experience into a successful position?
So we partner with different companies locally, different groups that are able to kind of see what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, but build off of their strengths. They might have something in mind that they want to do, or they might just kind of, in a lot of situations, they might feel lost, and it's a huge feat to go out there and try to figure out what your next step is in that type of a situation. So it's helping them just kind of prepare with the interview process, with the resume building. In our donations department, we have a wide array of clothes for them so that they can choose outfits for interviews or for the job itself.
This all just sounds so amazing. How do you help these individuals navigate the legal system?
So I have a list here, so let me make sure that I give you all the details. But so when someone reaches out to us, regardless if they need emergency shelter or not, they are provided a victim advocate referral, and those are part of our staff, our team. So they're not lawyers, but they can help victims navigate the challenging legal system at a very emotional time for them. Because the process is stressful and scary, especially to someone who's coming out of a very traumatic situation. So they assist with divorce, custody, counseling, emergency protective orders, and accompanying them to court. If the victim needs an attorney, our victim advocates will refer them to legal aid, which are the free lawyers, so that they can get that assistance that they need, and our victim advocates will inform legal aid of what they need. If the victim needs to go to the magistrate to fill out paperwork and press charges, our victim advocates will go with them and help with that process. If someone has been sexually assaulted, they will assist them with getting a physical evidence recovery kit, so a PERC exam. On Fridays, our victim advocates spend the entire day at the Family Advocate Networking Services, the FANS office, in the Juvenile and Domestic Court. So for anyone that needs the service, it's located on the third floor across from Courtroom C. Victims can be a program participant that we're already assisting and have scheduled for that day, or they can be a walk-in from the community at the office and receive the same resources. If the victim's case is on a Friday, they can show up to court that day without an attorney and receive one at no charge to look over their files and review with them beforehand, because these attorneys are there on Fridays serving pro bono volunteer hours. If they need accommodations in court, such as vision or hearing impaired, the victim advocates will help them arrange those resources. And if victim advocates can help remove their address from public-facing websites through the address confidentiality program, so the searcher will never be able to see it publicly. They'll be rerouted. So if their abuser tries to find them, they will not be able to. But also our case managers help our program participants with, getting paperwork they need, if it's a driver's license, birth certificate, social security number. But victim advocates can help community clients with that as well.
That is a lot. So one thing that I remember from my time when I interned at a prosecutor's office that shall remain nameless, there was a victim advocate program that was housed like within the same courthouse. And sometimes the prosecutors, even though the prosecutors are there to help, right? They're there to prosecute the crime and take this person to task. They were very cold when it came to actually dealing with other people. And so they would go out in the hallway, for example, and yell, "Are there any victims here? Are there any victims here for the next docket? Any victims for the 10 o'clock?" You know what I mean? It was just like, oh my word, you can't really treat people like this. And then when they're asking questions, it's very regimented. It's very like, what time of day and what were you wearing? And, all of those kinds of things. So, I could see firsthand how a lot of people just didn't want to be part of that. They didn't want to be subjected to that type of treatment when they've already been through a traumatic time. So sometimes just having somebody who's like sitting there with you and helping you cope is what gets you through to the next step, right?
And I can personally say from like messages we've received and stuff that there are a lot of people that it's a very last minute, I admire the strength of these people to go against, their abusers and that stuff to try to press charges. But there's a lot of times that we see the night before that they reach out or that morning and they're like, I was going to go do this, but now I'm really nervous. I have cold feet about this. I'm scared. Can somebody come help me? And we've also heard too from survivors how the system kind of house, I guess, the accused and the victim in similar areas sometimes, and how that can just be very intimidating for them and scary to be in that environment. So to have somebody kind of be a mediator in that situation is very important.
Yep.
How successful is your program? Because you offer all these resources, and I'm imagining a lot of individuals taking advantage of it. Then once they kind of graduate through your program, do they come back, or are they pretty much set up for success in the community?
So it can take multiple times for somebody to successfully leave an abuser. I mean, it can be a matter of things. It can be just, the bond that they've had with that person over the years, because the person that they fell in love with isn't the same person anymore, but they still see pieces of that person. There could be children involved in it. So unfortunately, we do see people that come back through that need the services again or the support, and we'll be there for them. I mean, obviously, it's a journey to get out of this type of a situation, but it is very successful. We have a permanent housing program as well that we help them get into permanent housing called our Housing Now program. And I believe it's in the 90% success rate that people, it's in the mid to high 90s. I'm not sure the exact number, but the success rate of them staying in that permanent housing for at least 1 year or more.
Wow. So when someone comes in to one of your facilities and they have children, what sort of additional protections or accommodations or programs do you have for the kids that have been probably witnessing some difficult stuff, right? And needing some help navigating that.
So yeah, because children, those are big years for them. They're learning a lot. They're, soaking in a lot of what's going on around them. And you don't want them to end up in a future situation that they witnessed. You don't want them to be the abuser, you don't want them to be a victim. You want them to be able to grow from that and have, their own independence and strength to move on. We do have a children's case manager who is able to kind of step in and help with the kids as needed. We do not operate a daycare, but sometimes, mom or dad has sensitive, stuff that they need to go take care of. So she's able to step in and kind of work with the children there while that stuff's being taken care of, but also when they're in our care. So we have the case managers that help overall, but she's more specifically geared towards the kids. So what accommodations do they need? What their basic needs need to be met. We also offer different kinds of therapy. So we have art and play therapy, equine therapy. We help with academic support. So with the school year beginning, providing them with backpacks and the essentials that they need to start the school year off right. But, just making sure that they really have a strong foundation for what they need to be successful as kids, but also just trying to keep normalcy in their life. I mean, because this is, it's a huge change to not only have to go through that, but then to move somewhere else. And in part with our emergency shelters, since we do house multiple families together, some of the times it can be, there's kids involved in that. And we do make sure that everything is safe for everybody involved in that type of a situation. But I've heard stories where, they're adults now. We had a recent story where they were in our shelter 30 years ago. The mom had left an abusive relationship. The kids, I believe, were 5 and 7, but they were able to form a relationship with the other kids in that shelter like they were siblings to them. And, in that time, that's important to have that kind of a relationship with others, that there's so much happening for mom that sometimes, you just need another friend to kind of lean on and hang with. So having that is really good for them.
Well, you touched earlier on the importance of donations, but how important is community support in ensuring that there's safe housing available?
It's crucial. So over half of our budget comes from federal and state grants. And that's pretty much covers our program sides of things, mainly our permanent housing, our Housing Now program. We have kind of been, as many have, in a limbo with, how much we're going to receive if certain things are going to be cut from that. So donations are crucial in order to make that, a successful program in the future. But also donations help these people when they go into permanent housing with furniture or just basic needs that can be their own items. It's not stuff that's already there. They're building their own place basically. So they're moving into an apartment. We work with over 90 landlords, real estate agents, property management companies in the area to house our program participants in. So they move in and they need the basics. They need air mattresses, they need chairs, desks, a kitchen table, like that kind of stuff. So the donations really make it possible that they're able to go, start fresh and build a new beginning.
So you talked earlier about the job training. How important is also like financial education, financial literacy, and that sort of development in a program like this?
It's huge. So in a lot of these types of relationships, the abuser may control the finances. They may control them entirely, partially. The victim may be working a job, but they don't have control over their paycheck. They may be completely dependent on their abuser, and they're like maybe not a stay-at-home parent, but they don't have that luxury of going out and having a job. They may not have a credit score because they don't have anything open in their name. So we partner with local institutions and local banks to help with financial literacy. So budgeting, savings, money management, that type of stuff, so that, they can start kind of building their own life outside of that. When it comes to the housing, sometimes they have unpaid debts that have accrued for utilities and stuff at other places that they had. So we help pay that off so that they can really start fresh and not have the debts associated with that. But really, we just try to get them out to be able to live independently financially and not depend on somebody else.
That's wonderful. And I know it's probably so hard for these victims to come in and just even talk about what they're experiencing. But what are some misconceptions about leaving an abusive relationship that you really try hard to correct as these victims come in and they talk to you and like, well, maybe it's not that bad, or maybe I don't want to do this, or I'm afraid to do this. How do you kind of correct that type of thought process?
So one of the biggest misconceptions is the idea that people should leave sooner. Leaving is an extremely dangerous time for a lot of factors involved. It's the most dangerous time for an abusive relationship. When a survivor lacks the resources, they're facing feelings of fear and shame, or they don't have a safe place to escape to, it's hard and potentially dangerous to leave. Another misconception is that abuse is only physical. It is not. It can come in many forms: psychological, emotional, financial. The abuser can mentally break down their victim and feed them insecurities and gain control that way. But also, once the survivor leaves, there's this misconception that the abuse will be over. And the mental toll that abuse takes on a survivor can last years, if not their lifetime. It's important that they build a strong foundation and have an empowering group of people around them and receive the supportive services that they need. So if that's therapy or group counseling, because it's also much more challenging with children involved and shared custody. So it's just really imperative that they have, that strong foundation that they can lean on.
Well, this has been extremely informative. So where can our listeners go to if they want to learn more, if they want to donate, if they want to get involved? Where can they go?
So you can go to our website to learn more about volunteer donations, other ways to get involved. We do have a donation department that is open on the weekdays from 10 to 3. It is run by volunteers. We absolutely love them. So there is volunteer opportunities there. You can donate financially on our website or shop our wish list on our website. We also have volunteer opportunities at fundraising events and different initiatives we do throughout the year. So I would really go to our website, SamaritanHouseVA.org, and just kind of check out the opportunities that are there. We also have sponsorship opportunities for companies, but there's a ton of ways to get involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so this has been I Now Pronounce You Divorced. If you guys have questions or you want to learn more, please join us again next week, and we look forward to talking with you then.